Welcome to the 2025 Dialogue, a masterclass series by the HR Association of India. I am Neha Jagnani, and today we are exploring a powerful theme that stays at the heart of every organization. From learning to lasting, designing training that drives behavior change. And to guide us through this conversation, we have someone who doesn't just train, she transforms. With over 32 years of experience, she's a force of nature in the world of learning and development. A TEDx speaker, certified coach, and EQ assessor, she blends science with storytelling, data with human connection, and strategy with soul. Whether she's mentoring professionals, coaching breast cancer warriors, or shaping leadership mindsets, she does it with boundless energy and an unwavering passion for impact. A three-time national awardee and Mrs. India International Classic 2023, she's inspired audiences across the armed forces, public sector enterprises, and global leadership forums. When she's not training, you might find her painting mandalas, performing on stage, or cheering on her daughter at HEC Paris. Thank you so much, Dr. Anjana, for joining. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you. It's absolutely a pleasure. Always home ground coming. Thank you for the warm welcome.
Wonderful. So, Dr. Anjana, this time I thought before moving on to the Q&A, I just want to know your thoughts to set this context of today's topic.
So, you know what? One thing, Neha, when you sent me saying that, Anjana, we would want to have a masterclass or a discussion on this particular topic, I was really amazed that, you know what, we are even thinking of talking about this topic because things have changed drastically. I remember around, 10 years back or a decade ago when I used to go for training programs, people used to tell Anjana leadership training program. We want our people to understand the value of leadership. They've become new managers and stuff like this. Today, nobody who's a manager is attending leadership training program. Before becoming a manager, organizations have started investing in their people. Today, the industry is thinking that, you know what, before I get on to that role, I want our people to be hands on in terms of skill sets. Also, people who are, nominating their team members for training, it's changed drastically. So I remember, delivering this leadership program for one of the organizations, and there were two leaders whose team members were nominated for this. Surprisingly, one of the team members' leader called me and he said, Anshana, can you tell me what is the program all about? What do you plan to cover? What do you think I should expect my team member would learn? While the other person did not call me. So I was like, I was very happy to share the content and everything, and I did that. Surprisingly, after 5 months, we were supposed to do a review meet. And when I did a review meet, the first manager who did not call me, he told me that, Anjana, my guy is doing the same thing what he did before. I don't think the training was really impactful. Nothing changed. When I spoke to this guy, he said, oh, 360-degree train. In fact, she's getting out of the turn promotion this month. I was surprised. I said, just out of curiosity, I had another team member who attended the training, but you are telling me something very different than what that team member is telling me. So I want to know what different did you do? And what surprised me was he told me that, Anjana, when I spoke to you and you told me what you're going to cover in this training, I actually called my team member who was attending and I set clear expectations from her. What do I expect you to deliver after the training program? When she came back, she was assigned a mentor. She was given those challenging situations to practice everything that was taught in the training. And today, she's a coach and she delivers exactly the same stuff what the manager delivers. And now the manager is due for a promotion because he went to his boss and he said, my team member is doing everything I do. I have nothing to do. You want to pay me free salary, you can. Otherwise, give me a promotion. Now he has taken up the directorial role and she has taken up the senior manager role. So a lot has transformed in this industry. The ownership, the accountability, the responsibility has gone through probably a 360-degree turn. And now people are looking at training more from a skill development perspective, application perspective, rather than just a tick in the box perspective. So I think learning and development now is here to stay for a longer period of time.
Sure. Thank you so much for setting the context beautifully, Dr. Anjana. It highlights something very fundamental yet very powerful, which is setting those expectations and also clearly communicating those expectations. So thank you so much. So to begin with, my first question for this session would be, what, in your view, distinguishes training that informs to a training that transforms behaviors in people?
So, when we talk about training per se, so when you what do you call it? When you do a entire synopsis of everything that you've done. So training that transforms vis-a-vis training, that not only transforms from the information perspective, but more from a behavioral perspective, multiple things have changed in today's industry. Information is available galore. Type it on ChatGPT, type it on Gemini, type it on anything, and you get results like no man's business. But what has drastically changed right now is the way people look at training from an investment perspective. A lot has changed from the mindset perspective. And today's training program is not driven by PPTs alone. Today's training programs are more experiential training program. So when you ask people, do you listen carefully? Everybody, obviously we listen very carefully. And then you do a small activity where they actually missed on listening and you just ask them, I thought you all said you listen carefully. What happened? That aha moments in the training program has kind of transformed drastically. And that is why the impact on behavior has happened very strongly. So, the core distinguishing factor is no longer trainings are PPT driven. Trainings are more experiential driven. Trainings are more realization driven. Trainings are more aha moments driven. Trainings are more self introspective driven. And trainings are more application driven, which never used to be before.
Sure. Thank you so much. Very pertinent point. Not just the PPT anymore. It's more about experiences, the environment where you engage with people, those activities that make people reflect. Uh, Great points there, Dr. Ranjana. So we'll move on to the next question, which is, can you share a framework or an approach that you particularly follow to ensure training leads to a sustained outcomes?
So, I love acronyms and I love to play with acronyms. So one of the things that I don't know whether I can call it a framework, but one of the things that I work with is called the AIMPACT, AIMPACT, pact. So what does it really mean? When you want a lasting behavior to happen as an outcome of a training, I think aiming it is very important. Now, when I say aim, it is aligning it to your business goal. What is it as a business I want to achieve? So, in terms of clarifying what are the behavioral needs, in terms of clarifying, what are the training need analysis for this particular role? What are the kind of behavior I would want my team member to have for me to achieve my business goal? So, sometimes it could be resilience. Sometimes it could be acceptance of rejection. I give 10 ideas, 9 out of 10 are rejected, but I still continue to perceive and bring up new ideas, understanding other person's perspective, empathy. All these things could be a ask of the moment. So, first is, can I align my training, my output, my delivery, my behavior to what is that business goal I need to achieve?
Sure.
I, in the aim, stands for the critical behaviors, which I feel is very important. Uh, if they just had to do one thing differently, what would that be? And what would the impact it would create? So, can I identify one or maximum two critical behaviors that will help me enhance my level of output? M stands for making it relevant and obviously engaging. So when I say making it relevant, is my training content more industry relevant, more relevant to the world or, to the real world scenarios? I
Right.
might say you must speak openly, but I come from a culture where, sir, ma'am culture still persists. It is not relevant to me. I have something which is a one-way communication. ऊपर से rating आ गया, बस वो accept करना है. One rating comes from top and I have to accept that rating. It's not a two-way communication. And here I'm harping on the fact that you have to have a two-way communication. It's not relevant. It's not real. So how can my training module make it relevant for the people who are listening to what I'm saying? So number one is, am I aligning to the goals? What are the critical behaviors that I need to, identify and then make it relevant? Once I've done the aim part of it, then I need to drive it to the long term adaptation model. How do I adapt to this? So, where we use the PACT, where practice by participating. Now, it is basically the 70-20-10 rule, which I feel works brilliantly well. 70% of what you learn is on the job because it's very practical driven. 20% is what you hear from your social surroundings. What this leader did, what that leader did, what he's doing good. Only 10% comes from formal training. Because see, when you're sitting in an environment, like look at it, look at us right now. You and I are having a conversation, correct? At the end of this interview, the interview closes, you go, I go. But whatever you learned from this or whatever you felt, Anjana, very relevant point. I'm going to apply this. But you're going to go back and apply it to the same audience who probably never heard Anjana, who never experienced what you did. So practice and participate by making that whatever you have learned, am I sharing it with my people so that it becomes relevant to them? And then applying it on the job and coaching and reinforcing it time and again. So having a mentor, having somebody who can guide you and move it ahead. And last but not the least is, am I tracking whatever is the transformation I'm going through? So, consciously when you start making note, oh, typically I would have done this, but you know what, Anjana, after the training, I've started taking two deep breaths before I give a word. I'm somebody who's very impulsive. Tuck, tuck, tuck. Moment the person starts talking, I will counter it. But now I'm not doing that. Now I'm listening. I'm actually asking, Acha, why did you think like that? What was different in your thought process? A lot changed because now I've started applying. But did I make a note that this is what I changed in myself and this is the outcome I got? So these are little tricks of the trade. But when I start doing this, it makes a world of difference altogether. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you
So
so much.
AIMPACT is probably a framework if you would want to call that.
Absolutely. It's a great framework to introspect, to engage yourself, and to understand where you stand in all those aspects, be it participation, applying, coaching, tracking. It all really makes a huge difference. So, thank you so much. Um, my next question, Dr. Anjana, is how do you measure whether a behavioral change has occurred post training? And what are the common blind spots that organizations often miss?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. So, when it is concrete change, number driven change, बहुत आसान है. Oh, I scored a 3, now I'm scoring a 5. So, number 2 ka difference. Behavior is something which is very subjective. So, when you talk about measuring behavior, there could be zillions of tools that are available in the market. There is the Kirkpatrick model where you have level 3 and level 4 and stuff like this. There's zillions of technical models that you can use when you are tracking behavior changes. But in my perspective, you know what? Uh, 60 to 90 days, having a feedback loop kind of helps you track this better. So, when I say 60 to 90 days, I'm looking at tracking from three perspectives. One is the learner perspective. So, self assessment. What have I applied? What have I not applied? What did work for me? What didn't work for me?
Sure.
The second level is the manager. Because when I'm reporting, say, for example, I'm reporting to Neha right now. So, Neha starts seeing, Are, nowadays, when I tell Anjana anything, she doesn't get irritated or angry. She will ask me so many questions to clarify. Previously, to fat karke she said, not possible. And she will go away from there. Nowadays, she's listening to me. Is my manager observing visible changes? That's my second level. The third level is my peers, and it could be any kind of a stakeholder if I have to put. It could be a cross functional stakeholder. Previously, I used to have cold wars with somebody. Operations always want results, HR always wants this. The learning and development is the one who's, kind of getting grinded between the two. But now, learning and development has actually taken step forward. I'm talking to my stakeholder. What kind of trainings do you think your people need? Why do you think you need these people? I'm talking to HR. Can we hire people with these kind of skill sets so they are trainable resources and they get results much faster? So we're not investing too much time in training. So suddenly my stakeholder is seeing results. My HR is seeing results. HR and stakeholders are being very happy. And I'm the intermediary cause for that. And I've made sure that I've highlighted that I'm the one who's kind of working this out. So this three level of interaction will help me measure that behavior much more easily. When we talk about the common blind spots, generally organizations tend to miss. The number one blind spot I feel is they're not very specific with their behaviors. Should be a good listener. listener is a listener. What do you mean by good listener? Can I translate those adjective words into more descriptive words? When I say good listener, does not miss any point, is attentive in the training, does not get distracted with digital gadgets. Is that what you mean? So, what is that distinguishing, clear definition of words? What are those specific behaviors? Sometimes we fail to define that. Also, sometimes I attended a training today. Tomorrow I want results. So it's like going to the gym in the morning. I was weighing 74 kgs. I went to the gym. I did 2 hours of gymming. I came back. Now I should be 73. It's not possible, correct? So sometimes I don't have a clear time frame defined by when I'm going to measure. What are my gaps or what are my pit stops where I'm going to measure this? So sometimes when that is not defined or I'm measuring it too early, I probably will not get the results. Also, in terms of there are no reinforcements or nudging that happen. You attended a training program. So as a manager, if I have attended a training program, does my senior tell, okay, Anjana, what you attended next weekend, going to have a brief session where you are going to tell us what you learned and how we all can apply that? So, am I reinforcing what I have learned? Am I giving those platform for reinforcement? Or am I asking the right people in terms of stakeholders for views that I get? Sometimes all these things are, over miss, or I would call it the blind spots, which we really not consciously take care of, because of which it kind of backfires. Because you know what? At the end of the day, training doesn't end when the session closes. In fact, it begins at that point of time. And if you truly want to measure the behavioral change, we should go beyond the classroom. We should involve managers. We should involve stakeholders. We should try and define those changes and strategically incentivize or indicate the behavioral changes that would work. So I think those are the blind spots that we clearly miss in today's industry. Has, of course, it's grown now to a large extent, but those are the blind spots which I still continue, I feel, are the blind spots.
Sure, sure. So to summarize, Dr. Anjana, for audience's benefit, how do you measure is with the help of feedback loop, as you rightly mentioned, should be first the self-feedback as a learner, then from the manager and subsequently from the peers to able to understand your behavior change. Blind
Yeah, and it could be
spots.
peer and stakeholder both. So, I might have a stakeholder who's not a peer, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if it's a cross-functional team, can I do that?
Absolutely, absolutely. The blind spot, you said to be more specific with the indicators, more from not from subjective to more descriptive. As you said, time frame should be adequately set. Last but not the
Yeah,
least, there
for
should be
evaluating. Time
evaluate.
frame for evaluating. Yeah. When
Yeah,
do I check, that, okay, training ho gaya, uske 3 mahine baad, I want to see the progress. After 2 weeks, I want to see the progress. So what's that defined time frame?
defined time frame. And last but not the least, the reinforcements, asking the right questions, triggering those points in the participant's mind to be able to understand the level of impact that it has created in a person and follow through, of course. So, thank you so much, Dr. Anjana. Moving on to the next question, which is slightly related to what we just spoke. What role does reinforcement and post training touch points play in embedding new habits and skills?
So you know what? I feel reinforcement for anything, forget training, for anything in life really matters. Because when we talk about a learner's mindset or a human brain, 70% of our content is typically lost in the first 24 hours.
Right.
Correct? Because I mean, for that matter, even if somebody asked you, Neha, what did you have day before yesterday morning for breakfast? You won't tell it like this unless you've not had or you're not a breakfast person. Correct? Oh, I don't have breakfast. So it's okay. You will always remember you don't have breakfast. But for that day, if you had breakfast, it's very difficult to recall for all of us. So, number one, learners forget content 70% of what they have learned in the first 24 hours. Correct? And it's very easy to stay in our comfort zone. So, old habits return very easily. Although they say 21 days, if you practice something, it will stay for a longer period of time. I'm really not sure because there are times on the 22nd day, if that is more comfortable for me, which I've been doing for 15 years, it's very easy to go back to that. And I strongly believe when we talk about ROI, knowledge isn't translated into lasting behavioral changes if I'm not reinforcing it time and again. So if I'm doing it on a day-to-day basis, it kind of works very easily. I'll give you a very simple live example. So you know what? One of the companies that I was working for, um, it was a year-long engagement. So the first 2 months, whenever I was training, it was a 3-day training program. Somehow, invariably, they used to have a mock drill, mock fire drill. So, and typically this used to happen on day two. So, 4 months consecutively, and I used to consciously ask them, "Koi fire drill nahi hai na aaj? You don't have a fire drill today?" No, no, ma'am, no fire drill today. And invariably, day two, there used to be a fire drill. So, and these are not fixed fire drills. So, in month one, it will be in week one. In month two, we will think it will be week two. No, it's in week three. So, very random.
Okay.
And for 5 months, I saw this fire drill used to happen. So one day I just asked one of the, participants, I was like, fire drills? He said, yeah, Anjana, don't ask. What a waste it is. Neha, you'll be surprised. When I was delivering the program in the 6th month, there was actually a fire alarm which went. And we were on the 27th floor. 27th floor, and the fire alarm went. There was a massive fire in the IT room on the 29th floor. 30-floor building evacuated in flat 9 minutes. I was amazed with, how systematically everybody went, tuck, 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 tuck. So once everything was over and everything, the next day I just asked, I said, you know what? I was amazed. We have a record, 9.5, 10 minutes, the entire building was evacuated, which is brilliant. So I happened to meet the the admin fire drill head. And I asked him, I said, this is amazing. How did you manage it? So he said, you should ask the people. They were the ones who ran. So in the training room, when I came back, I very casually asked, I was like, oh, guys, congratulations. All of us are alive and rocking. Great. How did it happen? So one of the fellows said very casually, he's like, Anjana, every month we have been doing this. So it was just a matter of practice. Moment we heard it, we knew what we had to do. So we all just went that way. Reinforcement. So casually said. But that's what reinforcement does when you do it regularly.
Sure.
Right? So it reactivates your learning, it encourages that repetition, it creates more accountability. It is something where, you're constantly working towards it. Reinforcement can happen in multiple ways. We could do these micro learnings. That once you attend a training program, after 15 days, you have to do a quick reevaluation, or you have to give an assessment, or you have to do quick recap videos, quizzes. It could be a mobile nudge that you do and stuff like this. That is one way of doing reinforcement. You could also have manager-led conversations that, okay, this is what I learned. This is a challenge you threw me. This is how I worked on this particular challenge. Or it could also be a peer learning circle that, five of us attended the training program. Monthly once, we all gather for 20 minutes on a Zoom call, or in case we are in multi-city or in the same office, we have coffee together in the evening and we are discussing what did we apply, what worked, what didn't work, why it worked, why it didn't work. And that could be another thing. And also sometimes when you start rewarding something, he attended a training program, he made these changes, you start recognizing, and I'm not saying monetary recognition. It could be a appreciation note, it could be an email, it could be a free coffee voucher, or it could be a badge that you display. All these are little, little things, but it makes a world of difference. Because see, learning without reinforcement, if I had to metaphorically put, it's like watering a plant once and expecting it to bloom. Today I sowed the seed, I manured it, I got it into nice, healthy manure, poured water. Tomorrow or 10 days later, I want to see a plant. Reinforcement is like sunlight. You have to put it regularly, water. You have to make sure you have to take care of the plants. You have to cut off the weeds. That is reinforcement that's really helping you to, bring the plant to the blooming stage.
Sure, absolutely. Great examples there, Dr. Anjana. So we can safely say that reinforcements is also like a glue. If without nudges, without coaching, without practices, learning will eventually fade. Or in any space, reinforcements plays that kind of a role. So thank you so much. This brings us to the last question, Dr. Anjana, which is if you have an example to share of a training program that actually failed to create the intended change, and what did you learn from it?
Oh, yes. So you know what? There was this large FMCG. I wouldn't want to name the company, large FMCG. Now, the HR team launched a wide initiative, and they named it very beautifully. They called the program called uh, Speak Up, Building a Feedback Culture. Okay. So the problem was this organization was a very traditional old FMCG organization, sir, ma'am culture kind of a thing. With the Gen Zs and the Generation Alpha entering into the system, that feedback culture was really important for seniors to accept it, for juniors to give it and stuff like this. But somehow there was always a fear. So they came back to me with a requirement saying that, Anjana, we want to drive this feedback culture. Ek feedback ke upar session kar lo aap. So do one whole day session. I was like, okay. So we designed an entire 1 day, people manager program on how feedback works, beautiful decks, videos, you know, fantastic activities. Everything was done. We actually gave them concepts like situational behavior, impact, SBI model of giving feedback. We gave them structures. We did tons of role plays in the program. Everything was done. 3 months later, the HR called me and said, Anjana, we don't see an increase in the real-time feedback. The performance reviews remained once in a year. It was an awkward affair. People are actually not giving feedback. So we actually sat down to dissect what went wrong. What we realized was the messaging that we were doing were overdoing. Banners lage hue the, feedback, talk up, this, that. But there was no opportunity which was created for people. It was not into day-to-day practice. Uh, if somebody said, sir, I want to say something, bolo. No, appraisal is coming next one. Tell me what you want to say. So, it was more fear-led. So there was a discomfort in actually facing the feedback. There was no safe space created for people to speak. There was no accountability. There was no reinforcement. And 1 day training, do you really think behaviors will change in 1 day? There was nothing happening. So they came back to me and saying that, Anjana, can we do something different this time? So we were planning to revamp and relaunch this entire program. So I was like, sure. But before we go ahead and do that, I would want to talk to the business leaders. So what we did was instead of just doing program for the entire, gamut of people who were there were certain key changes we made in the process of doing this. Number one, although we said it was a 1 day program, it was definitely not PPT led. We got into role play labs. We actually got structured actual real life scenarios. We got into this mechanism called the quarterly themes that we had. So we kind of put people into, this is the appreciation month. So you have to appreciate people. You have to give feedback on appreciation. Then we called it something called as the, a conversation week, a constructive conversation week, where you would have dialogue with people within the system to what is it that you expect them to deliver. We also made sure that, the managers, when you observed something, don't wait for the year end review to give feedback. Give feedback there and then. Say, hey, you know what? I saw you do this. Fantastic job done. I saw you help this person. I never knew you were helping, but I saw you help this person. Great. If somebody in the meeting was constantly obstructing or cutting someone, after the meeting, he was asked to stay back and he was given a feedback. Listen, let people complete. They have their objective, they have their point of view. Somebody was very loud in a meeting. He was given a feedback there and there. You're not listening to the other people. Understand their perspective, understand their viewpoint. And all these things was like it became a day-to-day affair in people. 6 months later, I had the CHRO who called me and said, Anjana, 48% increase. People have actually started speaking. And our feedback has become so much more constructive now and so more relevant now. Correct? So I feel when you want to fix something, uh, it's not only the training design that will help you, it's also about the readiness of the people to accept. It's also the cultural shift that you want to make. How are we reinforcing? What are the kind of matrices that we are doing? How are we, putting it differently in any particular format? So training will definitely light up everything. But it's the players on the ground who are actually going to use that light constructively. And are we showing the light in the right place? Makes the world of difference. So I think that's something that, in my, very quick recent memory that comes to my mind. So it was a complete failure in the start.
Sure.
And today it's an organization that talks about cultural shift.
Sure, wonderfully put. So, from the problems perspective, what was the highlight for me is instead of presenting jargons like speak up and big headlines, you present opportunities, creating that safe space for people to speak up and get over their fears. So it's all about that, and of course, the reinforcement, and the trainings that was done after. You followed an approach of no PPT, quarterly reviews, and conversations, more than one way communication. I think that made all the difference. So, great point. So many takeaways for participants. So, this brings us to the end of this masterclass, Dr. Anjana. Thank you so much for your insights. And I actually picked up one line that you used in today's session, which was training does not end, when the session does. It actually starts when you start living that, when you start practicing that. And your insights, as usual, were rooted in experience, empathy, and so much more to learn today. So thank you so much
Thank
on behalf of HRAI.
thank you.